Welcome to the Never Been Promoted podcast and YouTube channel. I'm on a mission to help you cut the time to all the things that are holding you back so you can unleash your entrepreneur. I got to add myself to the stage. It's always a timing thing with me. I got to tell you what, technology's hard, people. And when you're running it yourself, it's even harder. Welcome back. We have been live all day today on this podcast and YouTube channel, meeting all kinds of interesting people. Today is going to be, the next one's going to be Laura Betterly. And her own words, she said she's been marketing 102 years. I don't believe that's true. But she's she knows marketing. We're going to talk about AI and the impact on your business. She has incredible experience. YadaYada Marketing, YadaYada AI, LauraBetterly.com. We're going to meet her some of her stories of. I hope she tells a few of them. I'm going to make her tell a few of them of how she got into marketing, some stuff she used to do back in the day. It's going to be fun. Also, she's also an A-team member on the Boom America with Kevin Harrington, which was the original Shark Tank guy. So this conversation is going to be helpful, and someone who's actually got a lot of experience in marketing and how AI has really impacted business today. Which, if you don't know what AI means, it means artificial intelligence. So if that's new to you, welcome to 2024. All right, if this is your first time here, thank you for coming. And if you've been here before, thanks for returning. Our mission's clear: help you become a better entrepreneur. We want to make more entrepreneurs in the world. I think we need it. Specifically, I think the U.S. needs more of them. And I want to do my part to help you unleash your entrepreneur and, cut that tide, all the shit that's holding you back, right? The excuses you make, the sense of entitlement you might feel, the fears of whatever you have, or people even, like, you got to let a lot of stuff go. You got to cut it off. You got to get to the point where you become exactly who you wanted to become an entrepreneur. And that's what we're here to do. So, go to neverbeenpromoted.com, check it out. If you want to do the subscribe at youtube.com at neverbeenpromoted, that would be awesome as well. Hit the notifications because we go live quite a bit, and we got a bunch of other fun content coming up. But enough shameless promotion. Let's go ahead and bring in Miss Laura to the stage here. How are you, Laura?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm delicious. Thank you for asking.
Well, there you go. There you go.
If you sit in the studio enough, I wouldn't want to be in the studio with me right now because it gets warm in here. And then by the end of the day, let's just leave it at that. So
you already lost half your tie and whatnot. You keep that up.
I did. And occasionally I have to trim it.
Yeah,
I just get great. I'm like, and it just gets shorter every month.
I like your mission. I like your mission a lot because, I think leveling the playing field. I think that one of the things that's great about being, in this country is the fact that we can, you can start out with whatever you're starting out with and end up with your own business and, make mistakes. I mean, we've all, you ask anybody who's successful, they'll tell you about the 32 times that they were unsuccessful. But everybody remembers the successful one. But yeah, it's good, and I think it's a great mission.
Thank you. And I if you ever go gambling, you only hear about people when they win. You never hear about them like, oh, I dropped 10K this weekend.
Yeah,
that one never is talked about. And entrepreneurship is some of it a gamble. Though I don't think the odds are stacked against you like a house would be in gambling. It's more of you can control the outcomes a bit more. And if you do, the key is, right, in entrepreneurship, if you're not learning from what's been presented, you've interacted with, you're not going to make it because you're just going to repeat mistakes. You're going to make excuses. You're going to blame others. You're going to find every reason why you weren't as successful as opposed to just, that's interesting. And moving forward, like, let's avoid that next time. Or, oh, well, that really worked. Understand why and repeat. And if you're not learning, you don't get better. And, you're like, we'll get into your background here in a second, but you started off in one type of marketing, you've moved to AI marketing, and now you have some consulting on it. You're evolving with the times to take your past knowledge and say, hey, this is actually more impactful for a business. And here's why I fit in. So take a minute, set up what your companies are, what they do, and then give me kind of start with the overview history. We'll dive into some of your fun stories.
Okay. I always call myself a dinosaur in internet terms just because I've been around for a long time. My first business, internet business, or at least marketing, was a company called PCDJ in the late 90s. We were the first dual MP3 player for DJs, which was incredibly cool. It was during the .com days, so there was a lot of money flowing. And we were traveling the world with rock stars, which, pinch myself. I can't believe that I was backstage at Madison Square Garden and got to hang out with some big, beautiful artists and whatnot. So, and that was great. But, as time went on, first of all, the .com crash did happen. And secondly, I'm not corporate, and I realized that. So I went out on my own, and what I realized was the thing that made the most money at PCDJ, as cool as the celebrities was, and as cool as the software was actually selling advertising in the newsletter. So I ended up selling, realizing that if I could put together a good email list with who I knew in the .com world, I would be able to do pretty well. So I leveraged two people I know with very large lists, and I created a new list, which was one of the largest in the country, and somehow figured out how to mail and was doing pretty well with that. And I was getting shut down. Now, this was before there were any laws that prohibited mailing or whatnot, but internet service providers weren't happy. So I wanted to tell the press a story about a single mom who was not being unethical about it, but, was getting shut down for doing an ethical job of mailing. It's not exactly how it turned out, but it was a front page of the Wall Street Journal. I showed them how things worked, and right before the article was published, the reporter said to me something like, my editor wanted to know, hey, some people say all commercial email is spam. How do you respond? And so, me being me, I made a joke. I said, well, if that's the case, call me the spam queen. And they did. And 30 column inches and a picture. But, I ended up being on CNN and CNN-FN and NPR and Tech TV and spoke in front of the Federal Trade Commission. And, it wasn't bad, It was a great experience. And I learned a lot from it. Yes, I did get some hate, which is okay. I mean, I think that's a sign of success to some degree.
Yeah.
But I was able to leverage that into not only, a company that I took public and then left, but also information products, which I've sold. I've had probably 30 to 35,000 students that I taught local marketing to and Facebook marketing to, and now AI. I mean, and that's the thing is you've got to look at trends. You got to look at what's coming up and what's going to create the most impact. You stay static and you'll die, and that's in any business. I mean, if you were doing postcards only and you didn't go online, you'd be out of business. Now, it doesn't mean that postcards don't work. In fact, direct marketing in some cases work better than it used to because people have forgotten about it. So now when you do,
you write a handwritten note to somebody now. Oh my God, it's super effective.
Yeah, you've got a long form sales letter now that's 4 or 5 pages long. Not only are they interesting to read and usually great stories, but they definitely do better now than they used to. And depending on where you're advertising, your costs could actually be equal or less than what you actually pay online, depending on what you're using. Because Google has just become shopping. Let's be real, okay? People used to spend time on SEO, and I just said, I'm not putting any more effort in SEO because I believe that AI is going to be the answer engine and Google is going to be the shopping engine. And interestingly enough, this morning, OpenAI just released a beta. It's called Search GPT. So I guess it's and it's better because you don't have to go through 30 websites to find something. Now there's 4 or 5 different AIs you could go to find different things, and each one had, just like if you had different employees, one's smarter in one thing and one's smarter in another thing.
Absolutely. And so, the focus today, like, we could take this a lot of ways, but and AI and the impact on any business. And if we focus in on, let's say, let's leave the big guys out of this, because it's just a different game when you have endless budget. But when you're like a company making 10 million or less, let's say that's a lot of people. And there's a lot less that are making less than $1 million a year.
Sure.
But the application I see is very much so applicable on either one of those smaller organizations, individual, just who runs it and how deep you go with it. So if we focus on that AI and impact, like what are you seeing on some of your customers is like becoming the most impactful AI sequence tool, whatever, for a business? Like, what's like bang for buck? You got to be doing this.
Well, I really think if you want to just be, excuse me, really simple, let's just talk about meetings, okay? And phone calls and all these things that we do when we're all getting together. You get 4 or 5 people on a Zoom meeting or, on a call and whatnot. And I record everything. And I actually get transcriptions. I use Otter AI, but that's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of them. There's a new one that's actually physical that will take all the information in. So then you take that information and you feed it, you get it transcribed with AI. But now you have a running record of who said what. How many times have you had an argument with somebody said, well, I told you to go and blah, blah, blah. You go, I don't think so. And, you can go back to the transcript and you can type in AI, was I told this? And sometimes it'll say, yeah, you were told this. And you'll be like, gee, I was wrong. And other times you can go back and say, you might have thought it, but you didn't actually say it. The other thing, you can go back, you can make task lists. I mean, like you're taking notes, you forget something. You can make task lists that you can then now use to decide what you're going to do and whatnot. Best thing ever happened. Really.
You're right. And I'll give you an example. It was a funny, it wasn't funny at the time. I was like, anyway, we had one of our customers had hired somebody to take on their marketing. And this person, when I say, like, this is probably the worst, most awfully unprofessional person I've ever met in my life. And I've worked for some big companies, and this lady had it hands down, like, no doubt. Awful human, like fake. Like, in one meeting, she's like, oh, well, and then when the guy was there, and then when it was just one-on-one, it was like beat a vendor. Anyway, I recorded the conversations because it was such a beratement to me. I at some point I just couldn't answer a question without being interrupted, and I went back and asked AI. I was like, what was your assessment? How the AI came back with, because I had a customer saying, hey, I heard you weren't very kind to me. I was like, excuse me. And I sent them the summary, and I said, hey, this is the AI summary of the meeting. And the AI was like, Thomas took a heavy beratement of verbal abuse. whole thing. And though he was a bit defensive, it was understandable because of the inability to finish a sentence. I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's not me. And anyway.
No, there's that too. But for me, it's like, I decided that I wasn't going to go ahead and scale. A lot of marketing companies, they'll add a lot of personnel and they'll scale really large. I decided I wanted to go boutique and keep the quality very, very high and only work with the companies I wanted to work with. And that's great, except then if I'm working with, let's say, 20 clients, I forget sometimes. So this is perfect for me, because I can now not lose any details. And I got to tell you, it used to be that I would have to work a 65 or 70 hour week to get everything done. And I don't anymore. I mean, I've been able to train AI to write my voice. For example, I have this beautiful way I make proposals, and I have a way I speak and what I think. So I've taught AI to talk in my voice, and they knows my format for proposals. So now I'll look at it and I'll say, I want to do this, 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 and this, and blah, 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 blah. And I just write my notes and I'll say, can you make me a proposal? And in 4 minutes, I've got, 8 pages of beautiful proposal written exactly how I would have had to do. That would have taken me maybe 2 to 3 days, including the editing and whatnot, and agonizing over every crossing every T and whatnot. And it comes out perfect. Or let's say, did you ever write and put up a web page or a blog post and you just think it's the best thing you ever wrote in your life? And then you have a friend who's a grammar Nazi and emails you and says, oh, by the way, you have a typo in the first paragraph.
My tie-ups are legendary.
Yeah. Yeah. But now you can just go in and just say, can you please, edit this page and give me, grammatical and spelling edits, and it takes 3 minutes, and then you never end up with that anymore.
I think what you're describing too is like companies can hire people like yourself, right, to take on a function of marketing or whatever it'll be.
Sure.
And as long as you're upfront and say, hey, listen, I leverage AI, but a human leads it. So I'm a proponent of AI, but as long as it's a human-led technology, not one that replaces you for some stuff. Automation can replace you. AI should enable you.
That's exactly correct.
Right. And they are different things. And I say this a lot, but, is that if you can go and say, listen, I'll scale this with you. That way I keep it. And I love the idea of these transcripts you dump into, say, like just a chat GPT thread and you name that thread like that customer and you say, here's all the interactions. Now, what are the takeaways? What is still remaining? What's maybe something they're worried about? So you can address these in meetings. So so every week you're having more effective meetings by remembering. And sometimes they don't remember because it's just, some customers are top of mind and then you do it and then they don't remember asking for it. And you're like, I just wasted 4 hours.
Right.
So you can do summaries of like, hey, this is what's going on. Is this still true?
Yeah.
This makes you more effective and they build so much trust when you're like the one that's keeping shit together for them.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a great thing to have. It was off-putting at first, but then when I realized how much time it actually saved, I'm reading this book. It's Ray Kurzweil, right? He's the futurist. He wrote,
Singularity.
He wrote the Age of Spiritual Machines and the Singularity is Near. Right. Well, he has a new one. It's called The Singularity is Nearer. So it's the new.
It's almost here.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, from what he says, it looks like at the end of this decade, we'll have some interesting stuff. And from what I'm told, 83% of his predictions have come true, and it's really interesting. And what you're looking at is enhancing the human experience with AI. Meaning, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to, that you could just download or just know something as opposed to having. And I find that more now with AI than I used to. Like, I have ChatGPT on my phone, and there'll be just weird things. They'll be like, what happened to blah blah blah. These things that used to just occur to you, and now you can know quickly. I mean, back in the day, and I'm sure you remember this, and I'm sure many people remember this. When I was a kid and I wanted to know something, I had to use the encyclopedia. Which may or may, which may or may not. Yeah, but my parents would be like, "Go look it up." Anyway,
they make it up, which is worse. They give you their political view on it.
But anyway,
okay.
Yeah, and if you had an encyclopedia that was somewhat up to date, you might get the answer. If that didn't work and you couldn't find it there, then you had to go to the library. So there's an extra level of commitment. You got the school library, or you go to the public library. And at that point, you had to learn the Dewey Decimal System. And then you had to go and find specific books and specific references that way. So to find something out, you had to really be committed. And you had to take, and it took a substantial amount of time to figure something out. And if it was in a book that wasn't well written with a lot of words that weren't understandable, then you're also then piling on the amount of dictionaries you also had to have. So you would have to really be smart and dedicated.
Then and it's amazing. These kids today can just literally, it's the first generation, like my kids, right? They're 14, 12, 9. Right. They don't have to ask they still ask us. And I'll be like, But I'll look up but I'm like, they don't when they have phones, they can look up their own answers.
Yeah,
Now,
it's true.
there's some fact checking they'll need to do because
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, where'd you hear that? Like YouTube. I'm like, that is not
Yeah, you
absolutely
got
not correct.
that, but and this is the one thing I believe is missing from schools, and I think it is missing in general, is critical thought. I think that people should be taught how to think. They should be taught how to, like, for a better word, their bullshit barometer should be on, right? If it seems a little like unreal, it probably not it's not true, right? And you can look at things. There's actually ways of looking at something to say, does a time sequence make sense? Are the fact, you know what I mean? Is there, are you going to, like, I wouldn't go to my hairdresser for political information. I wanted to do my hair. But you find very well, I saw, this guy on on YouTube said, blah blah blah. Well, who was this guy? What was he
Was his
saying?
name Kyle Ray's? It's just he has opinion.
Yeah, but you got my point, right? So, and also about information being specific, but also you also look at scientific studies. You used to think that scientific studies was the end of it. Okay, it's the science says it. Yeah, who paid for the study? If it was paid for,
Exactly.
if it was paid for by big pharma, it's the point of it is to sell whatever drug it is. And don't get me wrong, there are drugs that save lives, and there and I'm very 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 blessed to be in a world where we can solve some of these problems. But there's also some nefarious guys that are going to try to, give you mind altering stuff so that you could be, a drooling scroller for the rest of your life. And that's just
There
it.
is every study's funded by pharma. Just to be clear, it doesn't matter what it's for. It's if
Yeah,
you don't believe that, just go review the political debate where neither one would answer the question that had anything to do with pharma. They're like, no, we're just going to talk about golf.
yeah. Well,
Anyway,
farmers pretty big, and
pretty big.
yeah. There's a lot of areas that you don't want to talk about, but
Well, bring it back to AI in business. So you have this stuff like this is one of the problems I think a lot of business owners, and specifically ones that maybe are baby boomer, late Gen X, my age. It's that fact checking of if I use this AI tool, what the negative stuff, the introduction of creativity or hallucination from AI. When it's your business and you've built it and you're like, I don't want any of that shit near my business. How are you recommending when people have that as a major objection?
Well, first of all, you should read what is being written. And if it's something that has to do with your business, you should probably know if it's BS or not. I would think that most people would. But that's not ChatGPT is not the only AI. So go to Perplexity AI. Perplexity gives you citations. So when it gives you an answer, or you can fact check things in there, and it'll give you actually where it came from. What website and what site, and whatnot, and that gives you a much better ability to see what's true and what's not. You're not going to go ahead and do what those. I think there was a bunch of law students or lawyers who used ChatGPT, and ChatGPT had made up a whole bunch of
They
cases.
had cases cited that were made up. Absolutely.
Yeah. But if
they
they
go to jail or be disbarred, the best for it.
Yeah, but you take that information and you put it into Perplexity and you ask for the citations. Well, if there's no citations, then it's BS, right? So there's that. I mean, and this is what goes back to what I said is you have to have some critical thought. You have to.
Right.
You can't just blindly believe anything you're told or anything you see. Especially with, look, now I can actually make an AI representation of myself that is reasonably good. And I can have it use my voice, which is reasonably okay. And I can upload a script that's decent. And there will be a video of me that I had absolutely nothing to do with. In fact, my friend Alicia finds that her social media videos that are created by AI actually gets better engagement than the stuff that she actually does live, because it's very direct and there's no ums and it's just very certain and it's done.
Yep. There's a degree of well, let me say this. It depends on what you're doing. So for example, the intent of this is not so much, honestly, engagement and likes and views. I think there'd be more entertaining subjects I could talk about than AI and business and God knows what to do. I could go jump and hit my face on a pool, right? If that was my goal. But when you're using technology and AI and you're using video or whatever else, I think that's some of the things with business you understand is what's the point? Is it a top of funnel? Is it a trust building? Then you probably don't want it over edited. You want your real person out there talking about the things you really know. Because when someone wants to work with you, they don't want to see overproduced. They want to see authentic.
Right.
And I think that's a key piece that people miss still. And that goes back to critical thinking of how am I going to leverage this technology in what way to really impact what I'm trying to do? And why would I do it at all? Like, why make a video at all? Unless you can say, I'm doing this because I want to meet people that do this, this, and this.
Right.
Or I want to go build more entrepreneurs in the world, whatever it is. So it's your consultant. How do you take that?
But if I have that data, right, and I know the key things that I want to communicate in a video, and I have my avatar, and I go ahead and I write a script that does communicate that and communicates it well, I can do that in an hour, as opposed to putting together a whole studio and an editing team and all this other stuff. I could do a week's worth of content in that hour, where it could have taken me a whole day. And that, in essence, is the big thing, is that you can leverage AI, and what you have two commodities in life. I don't care what anybody says, you have time and you have money. And you can make money, but it's really hard to make time.
You can't do that.
And AI makes time.
I mean, it's what you do at the time too, right? So if I'm going to go knock out, play Call of Duty for 9 hours for my savings each week for my AI running my inbox, you're not really getting any more back from that. But if you're doing it to go refine your offers or connect with another 15 people that are relevant to you, good use of time.
Yeah. Or even if you're like me, who's been pretty much not an alcoholic, a workaholic for the last 30 years.
That was a Freudian slip, people.
There you go. No, I'm not really a drinker. I mean, you know. Anyway, but the point of the matter is that, now I have a few hours a week to work on things that I enjoy, my art and whatnot. Now, do I think that art's going to actually be an income source for me? No, but it feeds me spiritually, and I enjoy it. So, and I found that I allowed myself to have that because I had more work to do.
Well, I think it does, and let me tell you why. Because if you can find several hours a month to feed your brain the neurons in a creative way, there's an overflow in your business of how that'll affect you, because you'll have more creativity in your business because you're thinking in that manner, and you'll be more energized because you're like, hey, this pays for that, and because I have this, I'm happier. And so it does make money, and at the very least, sometimes like when you're trying to lose weight, sometimes that's the wrong metric. It's like you're trying to lose weight or fat, and the example being, I've lost a ton of fat in the last 90 days, but I'm the same damn weight because I gained a bunch of muscle. And I was like, man, I'm really focused on the wrong metric here completely.
No, and that's true. I just, my only point was everything I did was just, either taking care of my family or contributing to more cash into the bank. And I realized that, to a certain degree, it made me unhappy because I wasn't able to experience these things that, I enjoy. I mean, I have great friends that I love that I didn't get to see very often. And they'd be like, hey, let's go to a show or let's do this. And I was reticent to do that. And now, I mean, like last month or the month before, I went to Mexico into the jungle and ended up dancing with a friend of mine. Now, that's ridiculously crazy. It was something you would never think I would do in a million years. But I did. And then I flew into Orlando, and then I saw the Rolling Stones that night. So, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had.
I was in the jungle dancing, and now I went to Rolling Stone. And then you were on a TV show right after that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was great, but I don't think I could have been able to get that all done if I didn't have AI. And here's the thing: AI as an assistant, it's like the smartest assistant you ever have.
Oh, I just drove to St. Louis for a 30-year high school reunion, and my wife drove half. Well, let's be honest, she drove more than half. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm having a conversation with my smartest employee." And I did 3 hours on AI with GPT to go through a new offer, new service line. And I interacted with it and got it. It was amazing how much work I got done in 3.5 hour window with it.
Well, Yeah, you train it. You train it. You train
You
it.
train it, and it was like, okay, now, and then it started doing the other things. Now, hey, go form this email to send this, go get this web. And when you use it in a way that you're using your brain first and you're challenging the things it presents back, it is incredibly effective as an assistant as
Yeah.
well.
And you can say, look, yeah, that was not what I was looking for. I want more
Absolutely.
of
It won't
this.
be offended. You don't have to say
No,
please.
no, but I do,
I
because
do.
I've seen the Terminator films, and so I'm
I have
very,
to. And it's kind of,
yeah, I'm
let me,
really,
let me pivot the conversation a bit. So how much though, take technology out, how important do you think things like, you discuss friends and, your family, but how much like things like faith, how does that factor into your approach maybe with AI and just how you're approaching your business? Does it impact it? Does it change it? Does it make it stronger? I mean, how do you resolve bigger life things with where you are in
well,
your
I mean,
career?
look, I have my faith, and I have my friends, and I have my family, and I have where I go for those answers, and everybody has their personal place for that, and I think that's really, really important, because I believe
Mhm.
spirituality in general is, I mean, we're spiritual beings. You can say whatever you want about it, but if you close your eyes and make a picture of a cat, and you're looking at that cat, you're the one who made the picture of the cat. It wasn't some outside stimulus. You made that, right? So that's you, and that's important. And you can take that gift and do something very positive with it, or you can take that gift and waste it. And I think I spent my first 25 years wasting it, to be honest with you. And I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, I remember when I had my first child, and my friends back then were very, very worried that I was breeding. They're like, I don't know about this. But, my
Had a
boy.
great friend, like, ooh,
Yeah, I know.
dude.
I know. I mean, my best friend, still my best friend this many years later, and he was like, "Yeah, we weren't so sure about that when you said you were having your baby."
We're like, ooh, we're gonna have to put up some fences and
Oh, well, I'll give you a good example. I ran into my girlfriends from high school when we went to New York. I hadn't seen them in 30 plus years, and we were having a great time. We went to the city winery, and we were right on the water, and it was beautiful. And my girlfriend Patty looks at me and she goes, "Do you remember that party at the candy factory?" And I was like, "No, not really. Give me a hint." She goes, "You mean you don't remember going up and down the conveyor belt?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I do remember that party." So yeah, I mean, I went from that to where I am now. I mean, many years later, and it's also shows that people do grow up, they do change, and you
they
know,
do.
yeah,
You and the way I tie that in AI and with businesses, even if all this technology is present, you still have to keep this human element of yourself.
oh yeah,
This idea that you might be, faith aside, put religion out of it, just that there may be bigger things at work. I mean, there's things that are bigger than the sun relative to us, right? So, like,
that's
the sun is smaller to other objects in the universe relative that we are personally to the sun, not our planet, us. And so your perspective of who you are should be completely just like, be happy you're existing, period. And and the idea that you keep a human element as these technologies unfold, keep the critical thinking in place.
yeah,
And I think the impact of the technology on your business and the time you're given on this earth will be higher.
yeah,
If you're completely reliant on it, it's going to fail you because you failed yourself for allowing it to be
yeah,
that way. And I think if you keep a human piece, you succeed. And I have a number of stories. Maybe you have one as well of where you've seen that play out. But I think that's the advice I'd give anyone is like, you have
yeah.
to keep a human
Well,
element at
well,
first.
yeah, and I think that if you're the one running AI, right, in your business, then it's going to be a reflection of you, of what you want it to be, by the way you trained it. I've heard so many times, like, well, everything is so, it sounds like it's written by a robot. Yeah, it's written by a robot unless you teach that robot what you want it to say or how to say it. And once or twice I've written a story where I've just come up with the outline, and I've also trained the AI. I uploaded um, hours of meetings that I was in. And then I said, hey, how would you describe my method of communicating in a couple of paragraphs so that I can use it to train, to have, and it was kind of introverting and interesting at the same time, because, it told me how I was very, very direct and whatnot. And I kind of knew I was direct, but I really got how direct I was by reading the assessment that AI made of my personality. But now I can have it write things, with my sense of humor and my personality. And I've had been like, wow, that was really well written. And all I could say is thank you. You know what I mean? I wasn't going to get into it, but yeah.
I think it's important. I love this technology to do reflection on the personality of your business. So if you're honest into an AI about your business and who you are and the problems you're having, it will give you incredible perspective on potential problems you face and how to maybe solve those. And it's a non-judgy, objective assessment of given the data you give it. So the more honest you are with it, it will look at billions of data points, if not more, and give you a perspective back. So I think some people don't use it for that, but instead of asking a friend who will probably lie to you, or maybe a partner or spouse that will really tailor it to the things that annoy them the most, you can ask it just, hey, this is who I am. This is truly what I believe. These are the employees I have. This is what I hate about them. This is what I love about. Anyway, it'll give you, that use of AI in business can help you move your business.
Great. It'll give you some great suggestions.
Fundamentally.
Yeah. I mean, I fundamentally will always tell AI, act as if you are, I mean, I would tell it what job title it has, right? You're being a direct response copywriter, or you're being a business coach, or you're being, a parent counselor. I even had it, answer some questions on stuff I had going on with the cats. I mean, it's just like, I'd like you to be like, I mean, and it was very upfront, like, you should probably talk to a vet about this, but this data is, and I've had some very, very good answers. And I've also had it help me, like, I had a client that was really being a little pushy, and I wanted them to pay me, and they were going back and forth, and I had given them like a discount if they had paid that week, and then they were asking if they could take payments on it. I'm being in New York, my first response is like, no, I gave you the deal. That's a deal. And I was like, well, that's not going to close it. So I put all that information into ChatGPT, and I told it to be a sales coach, and I put all the emails back and forth and what was happening and the results I wanted to get. And I said, can you suggest a few things that I might be able to write that would get me, would get my result? And I did get paid that day. And I don't believe I would have if I'd gone with my gut. I just gotten a little annoyed.
I used GPT specifically, and this is great advice, I think, honestly, for anybody in any situation. But when you have to write a difficult email and you're emotionally charged in it, I mean, you want to write, go for yourself, but you can't, and you take an original email from a customer, or maybe somebody, it doesn't know who it is or what it is, right, and you give it context and say, I need to communicate these points, acknowledge this. Give me advice of how else I can do it, and just be direct and whatever it is, and and kind. The kind of email it'll write back is so well done professionally.
Yeah.
And it'll be 10 times better than you could ever do it, because it'll take out the emotion, and it'll get to the point of, and especially if you're saying like, this is why we wanted to, use that specifically when you feel yourself charged up, either actually too excited, meaning like, oh my God, I'm gonna get this huge customer, or angry as hell.
Yeah.
And
no, it definitely adds a layer of chill that you wouldn't have otherwise. It's great to have. And I mean, there's another point too, which is the only employee that you'll have that'll never come in drunk or hungover, will never be upset because they broke up with their girlfriend, will never say you're overworking me because you're working at midnight. And every AI I have doesn't cost me more than $20 a month, which is amazing. And again, as I said, each one has something different. ChatGPT's got some great things about it. You can create these little programs called GPTs, so you can upload your own data into it, and I made one to help me learn some musical theory. I made another one that would help me work with one of my music programs, because the book to how to use the software is 1,200 pages. I'm never going to read 1,200 pages on that, but I could upload the PDF and just say, I'd like to know how to arm an audio track on blah blah blah, and it just pulls it right up. So you can use that. You can use that if you want to teach your kids. Let's say you want to teach your kids times tables. You can use a GPT that'll gamify it a bit and help a kid on stuff like that. So there's a lot of like interesting uses that you wouldn't have thought of. Do you remember the Jetsons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember the first video phone call? Remember Jane, his wife, when she had to put on the special face? She was doing FaceTime in, what was that, 1966 or something? It was amazing.
Interesting to point out there were no people of color in the future in that show at all.
Yeah.
So somebody missed that one, but anyway.
All right. I want Rosie. I want a robot that cleans my house.
Hell, they do. It's called it doesn't actually clean.
It doesn't clean your house. It just and if you have cats, it doesn't really work that well.
No, it doesn't. My sister has one of dogs, and their dogs shed and I'm like,
did
how
you see that video?
It only jams up like 4 times. I'm like, really? I'm seeing how much hair is here. I can feel it.
I can tell you, I saw a video of one of these little iRobots that rolled off over some dog poop and then just kept all over the whole house. It was.
Oh my God, that to me is just funny.
It is. It's funny unless it's yours, you know.
It's funny because it's not mine, and
If it's yours, it's not so funny. But yeah, I saw that video and I was like, oh no.
That's awesome. Listen, conscious of time here, and who's an ideal customer for you right now to get a hold of you, and how do you want them to do that?
Well, I help actually automate businesses. I do marketing programs, and I automate businesses. So if you wanted to automate, let's say, some of your copywriting functions, I could go in and get your voice and create an AI program that would do that. Or if let's say you have a lot of customer service stuff, I could take all your earlier tech support tickets and put it into a little robot, and that would answer most questions that would come up, so that you would have less humans having to answer questions for people. So there's a lot of different stuff. So if you want to automate anything, that would be one thing. If you have a great business, but you need more leads and you don't know what to do with that, I can help with that. So you can get me at laurabetterly.com. I have a newsletter, YadaYada AI or YadaYada Marketing. And I'm on social media. I mean, it's kind of hard to miss me since I've got the pink hair.
I noticed that. I mean, it's good. It's a statement. And pink's the lipstick still. It's good.
Yeah, I just found this pink. I love it.
It matches your hair. It's great. It's good to be in brand. Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to put you in the periwinkle room. I'll be right back, but thank you so much. Thank Laura for coming on. And listen, she got great experience. I've gotten to talk to her offline, and we did the Boom America show together with the Kevin Harrington. So very funny, lots of knowledge. This doesn't even scratch the surface of what she can do for your business. So definitely reach out to her at YadaYada Marketing or YadaYada AI. Or laurabetterly.com. Guys, thank you for making it this point in the show. This is, we're on this mission to help entrepreneurs get better at entrepreneurship by cutting the tide, all the stuff that's holding you back. It's called Never Been Promoted because I've never been promoted. That doesn't stop you, though, from having a great career or having this passion for entrepreneurs, which is what we want to do, is make more of them in the world. Until we meet again, get out there and go unleash your entrepreneur. Thanks for watching.